it's kind of like what, Princess Diana's marriage, with 3 mayors. It's a little crowded here. So, if he runs again, I won't run. It's time. I was towards the
What do you mean
town.
it's time?
I mean,
There's too
there's
many things to
Joe.
do. Hey, we're gonna put in brand new sidewalks. No time to run away now.
He can join the subcommittee.
He's right. What?
He's right.
What?
Extra income.
It's not?
No.
Competition to run for
It's kinda
council
like-
to get on the ballot.
7:30.
7:30.
26 years, I've been 29 years here. He deserves it.
Mr. President.
No, it's 7:29.
Oh, 7:29, I'm sorry.
According to that, it's 7:30.
I'm going- yeah.
7:29.
Kim's going by that one. We better stick to our 7:30.
It's actually
All
just a
right.
sweet.
Are we ready? Here we go. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Almont Village Planning Commission for June 6, 2024 to order, please. May I have a roll call?
Kariuski,
Here.
Meek,
Here.
Zender,
Here.
Schneider,
Present.
Dyke,
Present.
Keller.
Here.
Miller.
Present.
All present and accounted for. Communications, is there any communications, Kim, anything we need to know about? No? Everything's quiet? All right, thank you. Next item is the approval of the agenda. You have it right in front of you. If there are no changes, additions, alterations, or corrections, I would accept a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion by Tim, second by
Supported.
Steve. All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of April 4th, 2024. As you can see, the minutes were very extensive, but
Detail.
anyway, if there are no changes, alterations, or corrections, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
I have a
Tying.
Tim moved, Steve seconded. I think it's a contest.
Yeah.
But anyway. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Next item is public comments. I don't think we have anybody in the audience tonight that needs to make a public comment, so we'll pass on that. The next item is the public hearing. I would like to officially open the public hearing for the purpose of discussing and adopting the village master plan. And I would ask Caitlin if she would take a few minutes and give us just a little bit of overview of where we started, where we came from, and where we're going.
All right, so
Please, doesn't have to be long, but bring us up to date.
sure. So we started this update a little under a year ago or so, and so it was part of a regular review of our master plan. Every 5 years, we're required to review it. Last 5-year cycle, we did a quick kind of update with the township, and so this was a comprehensive, total update of the plan, taking some of our good bones that we had from the previous, but really thinking through everything and rewriting it. And so I think we did a really due diligent job on our sidewalks, our public engagements. We did a community survey. We did the open house. We also focused on some housing characteristics and land use and things of that nature. And so as part of this procedure, we've done all the different required notices that were associated with it. We are preparing then for tonight's action, which would be then to adopt the master plan. And then the next step would be is once the planning commission adopts it, then it would go to the village council's meeting, and then they would also adopt it. And so there would be a few changes that we would make in between versions. So one, I'd make you an official cover. Two, we would update different dates of different procedural things when those were all inserted. I don't know if we want to have both the village managers in here. So I know David Trent isn't going to be coming back with us, but we do have Dale Kerberson, who is the acting manager and has been since essentially went for public hearing of our master plan. So I don't know if we want to include both managers, maybe label one past manager, and or how people feel about that, I guess.
Mr. Trent, his separation agreement has been completed, so he's officially no longer the manager, and there is an employment agreement in place with Mr. Kerberson at the present time, and probably first meeting in July, he will be our permanent manager. So I would recommend that we put in Mr. Curvison's name. He is our manager at the present time.
Okay, so just have his name.
Right.
Okay, I can do that.
Hey, will you also take a minute or two and just explain the survey that we did in conjunction with this? I think that was really important.
Sure, yeah. So we did a survey where we got over 300 responses of our residents that, and some township, but overall, a really good turnout from a community survey standpoint. We had it out for about a 30-day period of time. One of the things that we really focused in on is trying to help us prioritize where are our services and what do we think are improvements that we need to be considered. And so that's what we really focused on. And so during that survey summary section, what I tried to do is make sure to prioritize, yes, what our full responses were, but also what did village residents think that identified as village residents, not just business owners or those who are in the township, but still care about what happens in the village. And so that shifted some of our priorities, but affordability was one of those major components, talking about rates and things of that nature that we want to think about doing. The other thing that a lot of people really emphasized is working on our downtown and making it even more vibrant. It's very pretty, but how do we give more activity to it? And so that's one of the things we'll be passing on to the DDA and hopefully supporting their efforts.
Would you categorize the overall reception of the survey as pretty positive for the village?
Yes, I would. And
You
I would say that people seem to agree. It wasn't a, well, now what situation. It seemed like everyone more or less was pointing in the same direction. They were pointing to the same main priorities, which is always very important. And then at the open house, that was also echoed. A lot of people that were able to participate in that, they appreciated the education of, yes, these are all the different sidewalk components, or these are different assets that we would like to add to our village, and things of that nature.
Thank you. Do any of the members have any comments regarding the plan that's in front of us?
Yeah, just past experience in dealing with like the master plan or other initiatives within the village, having 300 responses for the survey was good, but I also think going to the format of having that open house and the response we got on a crappy weather night in January spoke volumes, because it gave us a lot more data than we would have gotten by sitting here talking to people about what the master plan is when no one shows up. And we might want to footnote that for 5 years from now, but that was a success and a good way to go. David, when he first came here, was trying to initiate the downtown Main Street initiative, or I might have that name wrong,
Yep, I remember.
but that open house had elements of that in it, and the survey had elements of that in it, where we're engaging the public more. And I think going forward, that's very important to do, to keep the public engaged, because their input is what we should be, and using the master plan is what we should be using to guide our decisions. So
That's a very good point. Yeah, that open house was very successful as well. Any comments from any of the other members?
Just emphasize
Yes.
Tim's point on, not to get too historical. However, what Lincoln always talked about was, if you have the support of the public, it'll work. If you don't, it won't. And that's the direction we're going in. So it's a plus. So Tim's point was, very well put.
Yeah, it is. And it pointed out the fact that people that move here like the size and shape of what we have. And they really don't want it to get a whole lot bigger.
but more importantly, some of the elements that's in here came from those sources, instead of just us banging our heads against the wall saying, is this what the town needs?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most important aspects of this whole process we did, was one of the more successful parts of it, is that we not only got the input, but we listened to it and utilized it. So
That whole issue, people wanting it to stay that small town atmosphere, environment, and size, does run into a diametrically opposing view. By that I mean I've heard that all the years that I've been on council. However, I always have to indicate, yes, but the expenses of running government go up every year. So if you don't have some growth, you won't be able to keep running the village. I mean, Terry Roach, I think, predicted, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, the village is going to go under because the water rates keep going boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
So you have to balance those two, and it's difficult, but it's just a reality that you have to be aware of. You can't constrict growth to the point where you can't afford to pay for your government. So
That's true.
it's I think all of governing is constantly a balancing act.
Well, I think too, when we looked at the constraints within the limits that we have to deal with, which is the overall size of the village, and we attempted, Caitlin did a really good job of helping us trying to identify the limited number of areas that we have that we might be able to do something. We don't have a lot of additional area to do anything within the confines of the village. So let's say we were successful and we did them all, we would be maxed out within the village. And so, and we had a lot of discussions about, well, okay, if let's say we went ahead and did all that development, can our current infrastructure handle what we would need to do? And the rude fact was, we're not sure it could if we were fortunate enough to expand anyway. So yeah, you have one head butting against the other.
Well, another aspect of that is at least one of the candidates that's going to be running for township supervisor is talking in terms of something that's been talked about over the years of the village and township working more closely together. And as I'm indicating, one of the candidates is talking more in that vein of wanting more coordination, cooperation between township and village. And one of the unfortunate parts about what happened as we decided to follow Caitlin rather than staying with that old firm, is the township said, oh no, we're going to go off in our own direction where it was supposed to be a joint master plan. And it's like, oh, okay. So you guys go that way and we'll go this way. But that has potential for the future in terms of even the possibility of taking water or sewer, et cetera, out to the township and going from there. Because we do have limited capacity. The township there's a lot of capacity. So it's only a possibility at this
Sure.
point, but something to consider and hopefully could address, the whole growth issue and what we can do.
And you make a good point. If you take a look at the acreage in close proximity to the village boundary now, there's a lot of acres sitting out there. There really is.
Yeah. Mhm.
And if that was ever to explode, you imagine what this area would be like? People might not like it. It might be too big.
Well,
But I mean, that's a
could happen.
possibility. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of acreage right in close proximity to the village boundaries.
And they are currently working on updating their master plan, and I believe they are doing major future land use changes, is my understanding, to downsize.
to downsize.
So we will see what that looks like when their
Yeah.
plan is ready for public comment, but that's something we'd want to look into. I believe they are making significant future land use changes on Van Dyke.
But also I think you need to take into consideration that the direction that the township is going in is under the present administration, and that administration is going to be totally changed.
And I think their goal is still to have it adopted before the election, but I'm not dependent upon timetables that may require an about face. That's true.
Right. So lots of variables. I mean, I'll continue to push forward. Can we look out into the future? That vision thing.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say too, when you're talking about growth, I think as probably one of the newer people to come into this area, we fear less about what it is to grow rather than how it grows, right? So like, I think everybody understands you have to have some growth. You don't want to be stagnant. But there's a lot of examples out there of like bad growth and, pulling in, the wrong direction. And so I think that's where we kind of can play a big role, is we get to not just stifle growth and say, well, no, we never want to grow. Because I've seen towns do that, and it's people leave because there's never anything new. But if you manage it in a good way, then you can actually encourage like steady growth rather than like everybody comes at once, leaves, or nobody ever comes and your town dies. So
I'm with you. Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
Well stated.
You'd hear constant refrains about, we have to limit the growth, and they'll say you can't put up gates. People are going to come if they want to come, but it's common sense, practical. Does it work?
I mean, you just
Is it
look at
legal?
you can just look at the towns that, I guess towns that come to mind are like maybe Traverse City or Petoskey or something. Those towns are maybe bigger than what we'd ever want to be, but the way that they've structured their town, people vacation there and they want to go there because it's a beautiful town, and they've done a good job at keeping it sort of small feeling, but also like a good vacation spot.
Yep.
And rather than, just allowing anything to go. And because I think when you just allow anything, there's a lot of negative that comes from that. So
You don't want growth for the sake of growth. You
Right.
want growth that will enhance and improve what you already have.
I mean,
That's what you're
one
looking
good
for.
example is like some of the subdivisions. If you're driving through, you see like a big comparison that we always do is you see a lot of the older subs have different houses in them, right? So one's not the same as the other. They might be close to each other, but they're different houses, kind of have their own character. But then a lot of the new development is just cookie cutter houses, right? And they're so close together, and they remove all the trees, and it's just a field with a bunch of houses. I think people look more negatively on that than they do on the more character of the older subs and things like that. So that's just one example of like how you can maybe channel how growth happens rather than just saying, no, we don't want any growth.
I go to Traverse City every year, and it has 3 social districts, which apparently work.
Yeah,
So,
it's a
And
big
we'll see how
town.
it
It's a
goes here
big
then.
town, bigger than people think.
oh
But-
yes, it is.
but it's still beautiful, and it has
yeah.
sort
They
of
also
has
have a
a
little thing called water.
yeah, I know. They have some.
That helps.
Yeah, Lake Michigan. Yeah, right. The Traverse
some-
Bay. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
demographic changes there, but yeah.
but that's a good example. So.
Very good. Any other comments? Kim, then we'll close the public hearing. Thank you. And we'll move on to the next agenda item, and that our new business. The new business is the recommendation of the master plan adoption to village council. Do we have any other items we want to discuss, or should we entertain a motion to recommend to council? First of all, let's accept it and then recommend it to village council. Does that sound appropriate?
Kim, just for clarification, it would be they would take action to adopt the resolution, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay,
yes, which is the recommendation to.
whatever the correct English is.
Because the resolution is the planning commission adopting the master plan and you recommending it to village council to also be adopted. So
Thank you very much.
just to clarify that's what that resolution, it's doing both for you.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept that resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Gary, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Support.
Robert seconded. Is there any other discussion by any of the members? All those in favor?
Aye.
Should we do a roll call since? it's
Oh,
a
resolution.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's okay. Roll
Yeah.
call, please.
Dyke? Keller?
Aye.
Me?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Schneider?
Aye.
Zender?
Aye.
Tedeschi?
Aye. Motion has been approved unanimously.
Resolution's been.
Excuse me, the resolution has been approved unanimously. Unfinished business. Is there anything anybody has before we break up this evening? Anything new? Nothing?
I
Then
have
I'll
an
enter
unofficial
unofficial.
announcement.
Okay.
So I am expecting our second. I don't know if you've heard the news or not. And so you'll be introduced to my substitute. So the village is being made aware they'll be kind of more or less integrated starting in July. I'm due in October. And so I wanted to feel out the planning commission to see. I don't know that we expect anything to hit in the next couple months. We don't typically meet in November, December. I'll be back in January. I guess I wanted to check with you. Did we want to make it so then you could meet the other, my substitute from Wade Trim, in which we could maybe organize a training or something later in the season so you could meet them? Or would you feel more, or would you just see what happens?
Alex, meet 'em.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so I'll work with the village manager to see if we could do a training later on in the year before I go, so both of us are here
Okay,
and you can meet them before it's official.
at least we can put a name with the face.
That's right.
While you're gone. That would be great. Thank you very much.
Do you know who it will be?
Yes, his name is, I believe Arthur Miller is the person that we picked from our team.
A part of it's good.
Now I'll ask you a loaded question. Is he as good as you are?
I don't know. He's definitely has his tenure in the company as far as experience and things of that nature. He has.
Working with small villages?
Yes, he particularly
important.
likes rural communities. He has a ton of experience working with downtown development authorities and things of that nature. So I think he'll definitely do you good while I am away.
Is he going to present us with any plays?
Arthur
Miller, the playwright,
I mean, he is more thespian than I am, but
or Marilyn Monroe stories, or
I thought it was a dancer. Wasn't
Yeah.
Arthur Miller a dancer?
Arthur Miller was a playwright,
Oh, okay.
very, very famous, and then notoriously married Marilyn Monroe. That didn't work out so well either. Stuff happens, but yeah, great playwright. Death of a Salesman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
oh,
It was Arthur Murray.
That's.
Oh, Arthur
Murray,
Murray was the
yes.
dancer.
There you
You're
go.
absolutely right. Yep.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
All right, is there anything else? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a
Support.
motion, and I have support.
Or
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.